Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Walker. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, a good chunk of this episode is about Trey's first outing as a continued trainee, but this is kind of like his last kind of hell week. Obviously, because Trey's circumstances were kind of pushed through because of James, that's why he kind of had such an unorthodox training regimen, and why his has kind of been under such a microscope, because his circumstances, they're basically, he's supposed to have 7 years of training up to becoming a marshal, but they're basically almost doing it's a weird way of phrasing it, but it's it basically taking his, I was about to say it's almost time served because of his military experience, but it's no, just, that, all that military experience is kind of being counted towards his experience as a ranger. So now they were able to kind of expedite and kind of run through a lot of stuff fast. And this is his first outing as a trainee, and this will be the deciding factor on whether he'll become a ranger or not. And at the forefront of this, he's investigating a case that, it's a lighter case too. It's just some horses being released from ranchers because these people believe no, these horses deserve to be set free, because apparently these horses are going to be sent to the slaughterhouse, which I didn't realize that was going on. I understand cattle in general. I could see about it, no horses specifically, but I guess it's I'm sure there's just probably things I'm not aware of, what horses are turned into that I wasn't aware of. I thought it was just because they're caged up and stuff like that, and used to wrangle in cattle. I didn't know there was a whole circumstance going on with them, but either way, these people are letting them free. Even Cassie was they're not doing anything bad, they're just kind of releasing these animals. It's just someone releasing sea creatures from an aquarium, or a oh god, what am I thinking of? Kind of a, oh god, what would we call? Kind of this place. Oh god, I don't want to use any specific place's name, but the whole SeaWorld of it all, releasing an animal from there, because obviously SeaWorld has a very bad rap about just their treatment of stuff and stuff like that, if I'm remembering correctly. So kind of it's in that same equivalency. So Cassie's coming from the perspective of they're just kind of releasing these things back in the wild. They're not really doing anything wrong, but it's yeah, but you're still knowingly breaking the law. So that's where you kind of get into that complicated territory, which because Walker is kind of going through some stuff still, he's kind of saying right, when there's stuff on the ground level, you kind of do what you need to, you don't get so caught up in the right and wrong of it all. When it's when you're on the ground level, and just when stuff's happening, you do what you believe is right, type of thing. Or sometimes that might not even matter. I don't know. I'm probably butchering what Walker was saying, but it caught Cassie and James off guard. But yeah, their investigation doesn't give any. Well, Trey learns the immediate complications of right, especially when so many other initialed agencies have a part to play in this, DHS or the FBI, so on and so forth, and you have to juggle all those. So he decides oh no, I'm gonna go talk to this FBI agent, which Walker immediately was oh, he's gonna have a hard time with it, because this guy does not play. The FBI agent he was talking to was yeah, that he's a tough nut to crack. And despite everyone liking Trey being so charming, doesn't matter. Trey immediately gets shut down. So, but they had stakeouts for all the other places, but because he was able to get, and it came up short, but by getting information and evidence from all of the agency, he was able to put it together to be okay, they specifically, these are receipts for 2 different coffee shops, and they happen to be in the areas of one of the places that was hit. So he was right, here's 2 other coffee places that are nearby one of the ranches or whatever that they haven't hit yet. So they knew just a general area to look, ended up finding them. And Trey, pulling, as even James admits later on, a Cassie or a Cordell, he ends up jumping in the back, hiding out, and plays a big role. And he kind of single-handedly took them down. Once again, these aren't hardened criminals. They're just people, they're kind of activists in their own right that just kind of ended up breaking the law for what they believed in. So, I even love that they're congratulating Trey and everything. I'm yeah, you got a guy handcuffed now. Should you really be doing this, all the congratulatory, story stuff, in front of like the criminal. I almost halfway expected the guy to be like, am I interrupting something? Like, you guys are celebrating arresting what? Like, is there this much fanfare around any other person's arrest? So that's why I kind of found it a little weird. But, you know, it's like, this was enough to... It's like, right, our Rangers got to know when to trust their gut, when to follow orders, and when sometimes you got to follow through, like, you know, take what you believe is the right action. Once again, trust your gut. So, luckily, it all worked out. Now Trey is officially a Ranger, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I think especially in a season like this where Cordell's not going to be at 100, I think even going forward, like, this is going to be a season thing for him. I think having Trey there to kind of fill in that gap a little bit, I think it's definitely going to be I think that's going to, like, push Trey up even more on the Ranger front, like, as he kind of learns the ropes. Because obviously he's worked, you know, like, he knows Cordell and stuff like that, because if he knows, like, you do Cordell, like, the Tom they've crossed paths and, you know, in that professional sense, but also like probably like vicariously through like Mickey learning about how Cordell works. So like, yeah, so that's definitely gonna be interesting seeing that trio a lot more active. I am curious. I mean, I'm assuming because Trey is gonna be one now, it's like, I'm assuming he's going to have his own partner, just like, you know, like Cassie and Cordell. Or I'd be curious if they end up having to kind of, once again, like pivot a little bit. So like one of them is, you know, maybe Cordell gets a little jealous now that Trey, you know, he's an up and comer and he's also like kind of taking Cassie away from him a little bit. Maybe that'd be kind of something we end up dealing with. But so there's that. But a lot of the other aspects of the episode are trying to, once again, to kind of, you know, continue fallout from everything that him and Liam went through. And so Liam still is hoping to reach out to Cordell, but Cordell's still kind of keeping that at a distance because, just like Bonham said last episode, Cordell's still figuring it out on his own, and he wants to help Liam, but he just doesn't know how to. And that's something he says later on. It's like, the reason why I'm acting like this is because like, I want to help you out. I just don't always know how to. And he's like, at the end of the day, like, I'll get to it soon enough. But he was like, yeah, I hope this might not be what you wanted, but I hope it's what you need, what he does in the end. Basically tying in the overarching case with everything, because Liam goes to, was it equestrian kind of this therapy. Interestingly enough, Liam from the show Coroner did the same thing. That was part of his story in season 3. They brought it up that Cordell went through the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I think I do remember something like that in season 1, but I didn't remember like, oh yeah, Cordell went through it too. And I think that's also why Liam was probably a little more keen to do it, because it's like, right, it probably made him feel like a little closer to his brother going through the same thing, because it's like, right, my brother went through it and it helped him. But for Liam, it's more of a substitute of like, man, I wish I could talk to my brother, but I can't. Because he's always had his brother he can lean on. It's like, right, that's like a big brother always being there for you type of situation. And the lady who runs the thing, Chelsea, she actually really helped Liam a lot, because obviously the horses can feel the negative energy. And yeah, he's grown up around horses, but he's still, you know, dealing with a lot. And kind of being able to kind of take those deep breaths, opened up his heart. He was able to kind of work with the horse. But sadly for Chelsea, it's like, yeah, my business partner got a new opportunity, so me and the horses were going to have to be leaving soon. But she has some other equestrian like therapist that he could go see, and she wants him to keep going, because it's like, right, you are doing good here, so don't let that kind of slip. But Walker in the end brings him a whole bunch of horses to work with. It's like, right, now Liam can apply like what he's doing, like he can help other people, because she's probably one of the few like super local people that was I mean, it's also going to help with his own therapy, but it's also going to be able to something what he can do to help other people as well. So, and there's a line from Liam where he's like, no, I understand. He's like, I can't always rely on you to make me feel better, brother, and walks away. Like, he wasn't saying that just to, you know, knock Cordell or anything, but in that moment you could look on Cordell's face and it struck him, because it's like, damn, like he probably wasn't expecting it. It's like, right, he kind of feels, I interpret that as him feeling like he failed as a big brother. It's like, no, it's my job to look after my family, and he doesn't always feel like he does a good job at it. And I think in this case where it's like, right, I wasn't there to help my brother, he's got to figure out things on his own, but also maybe it makes him go like, my brother's figuring it out, like I need to figure it out as well. So I think that's such an interesting, but that's what really crossed my mind when that look on his face, that sad look, like, oh, like he feels like he let his brother down because I couldn't be there to help him. Because, once again, everyone's finding their way forward through all this. Stella, because she's staying behind because she's not going to college, she has to figure out, well, what exactly is she going to do? And her dad's like, oh, you don't really have a plan. I'm like, yeah, but most people, even graduating high school, still don't have a plan. I mean, especially like, oh, I'm taking a year off from college. It's like, once again, it's not something she necessarily wanted. It's like something her mom, she assumed like that's what my mom would want because because Emily's going, she kind of felt the need to kind of really go see that through, but it's not where she wanted to be. Once again, college seemed like so small in comparison to everything that's going on with the family at the time. So... But sadly, like, she's been in that situation time and time again where, like, she continues to make sacrifices because she feels like the family needs her. Maybe, in the same regard, it's like, right, she needs them just as much as they need her. And it's also, like, a part of growing up, making those hard decisions of, sometimes you got to put your family first before your own needs type of situation. And I think everyone in that family's kind of made that similar sacrifice. But obviously, this kind of causes her and August to, like, butt heads a little bit because it's like, right, basically everything's kind of being like, that's your room was supposed to be mine. You're the one that decided to stay, and it kind of threw everything off kilter because he was like, yeah, my junior year was supposed to be my year, like, to shine and kind of flex and just, but now it's like, right, he's still kind of in Stella's shadows, which I think is a neat parallel because Liam felt like that in comparison to Cordell. So now kind of seeing like, right, it's kind of reflected amongst Stella and August, and she's like, right, cut me some slack. It's not what I planned either, but the fact is her dad wants her to work at Jerry's bar and everything just to kind of have a job to stack up some money until you figure out what you want to do. And Jerry tells her, like, right, your mom, like, because she feels like, well, Cordell always knew what he wanted to be. Liam wanted to be a lawyer all of his life, and now he's older, he's making the decision to all of a sudden, change careers. And Jerry tells her, like, no, your mom wasn't solidified in what she wanted to be. She only wanted to go into law initially because her dad was kind of pushing her towards that. But it's like, oh, what changed it? And she was like 9/11. It kind of put a lot of stuff in perspective for her. And so that's why she eventually shifted to the career that she did. I mean, even then, Jerry's like, that took years. Because for Stella, she has it in her mind, like, who her parents are. But she forgets, like, yeah, they were teenagers at one point in time. They were struggling like her to figure things out. So Jerry kind of gave her perspective on things. And even later on, Liam's like, hey, you can help, because she wants to help people. Like, that's kind of something she wants to do, very similar to her mom. I mean, just like her dad, too. They just found different outlets to help people. And so she's going to be working with Liam with the equestrian, like, therapy stuff. They, like, not just for, like, him, but, like, help take care of the animals and the horses and stuff, so they can, especially because they have, like, someone like Bonham who is well versed in horses to be able to kind of help them and take care of them and stuff like that. So that's going to be something I think she's going to be focusing on for a little while. But also she's trying to, like, give the reins over to August too, because she's like, right, here's a family tradition. The big bobblehead, it's like, right, it's kind of the Walker family tradition, so she's using it again as she teaches August to drive. But the clutch kind of messed him up, and it's just like, oh, he kind of embarrassed himself a little because he was trying to look so cool. Because I think August has never been, like, the cool person. I mean, we've seen, like, he's always had, like, a very small squad, and even his squad has always been connected to Stella's squad. Like, there's very few people, like, and friends that, we've seen. Because, like, everything we've ever seen in the school stuff has always been, like, Stella and August, and it's always been Stella's circle, whether it be Colton, whether it be Todd. So it's that complicated thing where we rarely get to see, like, August kind of have his own, because I think it's always just, like, his family drama ends up kind of taking, like, sweeping up every, ends up kind of being sweeping him off its feet at school and stuff like that. So I think that is such an interesting thing that the show's done by design, where, like, yeah, we've seen them at school, but we've never seen, like, August with his clique, because his clique has always been interconnected with Stella's, because, once again, like Todd and Colton, for example. So I don't know, just thought that was kind of an interesting element to it. I mean, obviously there's an exception of, like, the girls he's been interested in over the course of the series, but still. But another element to this episode is Cordell recognizes that James and Cassie are worried about him, but it's like, hey, I understand, and I'm always going to be open and honest with you. And he was like, at the recent events, it got him thinking about Coop. That was his mentor and his best friend. So I guess it also strikes out the theory I had that like maybe he was the one behind all this, because it turns out he died. And the fact is that later on it's like, oh, you should give this to his family. And Walker was like, it's complicated. I think it might be a thing of Cordell blames himself for Coop's death. Like, it might have been like, oh, I didn't take the right action, or maybe when the time came I might have froze, and he blames himself for whatever happened to Coop. So that's why that's all kind of triggering, because especially when it's like, oh, this guy's supposed to be the war hero. Maybe it's something like he doesn't feel like he deserves, because it's like, no, like Coop was the hero. He was the guy, and I was kind of like, you know, once again, he was my best friend. He was my mentor, and I feel like I failed him in so many regards, because for Walker, I mean, based on what we've seen so far, it seems like Coop had a big impact into kind of making Cordell who he is. And he even told Cassie, he's like, I've never told my family this. Coop's death is the reason why I traded in my dog tags for a badge. I wonder, like, he says his family. I'm wondering, is he just talking mom, dad, Liam, Stella, and August? But I'm also curious, did that ever include Emily as well? So I think that's even more so reason why when he came back and all the military stuff was in his face, it was just too much for him. Especially considering the guys who did that to him were military guys as well. So it was all too much. And so they go over to Coop's mom's house, I think. But when the time comes, seeing Coop's picture, Cordell couldn't bring himself to talk to her. Like I said, I think he blames himself, especially because he hasn't reached out in all this time, you know? So I don't know. That's why I'm wondering, like, it feels like that has to be the reason why he was like, yeah, it's complicated. I don't see the other way it could be complicated, but, I mean, there's definitely a lot more to that story, but he ended up leaving, and he told, Cassie, oh, yeah, I talked to her. It was good. It was like, but he didn't. Talking to her might be the thing he naturally needs, but, you know, it's not something he's ready for yet. And I think when the time comes, when he's ready, he'll be ready. So we'll have to ultimately wait and see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.